Shalom, my little Zehoovians. How are you guys going? I'm guessing you are as frustrated and bored and irritated by the situation as the rest of Melbourne is. So, I'm sure you've also heard a lot of people say this too shall pass. Have you heard people say that? It's really great. It's a great saying. It means what we're in, what we're experiencing, it will go away. And that's attributed to King Solomon. What the grown-ups who say this to us fail to remember is that right now, for you guys, this is a lot of your time that you're spent stuck inside. You can't go to playgrounds, you can't go and see your friends, your grandparents, but it's true, this too shall pass. We're going to do something slightly different today. We're still going to make something, but I'm not going to read you a book at the end. We're going to do a quicker one, and we're going to make a crown. So just like King Solomon, who's very famous, you are going to have a crown to wear. What you need is at least one piece of paper. Yeah, and we're going to take this one piece and make a crown. You'll see it's pretty cool. Other pieces of paper if you want to decorate, or some textures. Yep, you also need some glue or sticky tape, whatever you have. So let's get started. So King Solomon, very famous king. We're going to start by cutting a zigzag right across our one piece of paper, and this is going to become a crown. You just follow me. So, King Solomon, very famous king, very special king. Why? Because King Solomon was very, very wise and also built the temple. But one of my favorite stories, I'm going to tell you two stories about King Solomon while we're making ourselves crowns. One famous story about King Solomon is a story of the baby. So there were two women who both said that a baby was theirs. Pause. Do you have something like this? What I want you to do is sticky tape it together or glue it together on one end to another end. Oh, and a visit from Saoirse, my cat. Sorry about that. So, these two women said they were fighting about a baby. This is my baby, says one. No, this is my baby, says the other. And there's a big fight back and forth. My baby. And they go to King Solomon because King Solomon is wise and just, and he can help sort this out. So he says to the two women who are saying, this is my baby, he says to them, all right, well, if you can't make your minds up, what I will do is I will take my sword. He gets one of his courtiers to come with his sword. Bring me my sword, please. He puts the baby down and says, if you guys can't decide, I'm sure if you have a sibling or a cousin, I'm sure you've heard this. If you can't play nicely with that, if you can't both play together, we'll split it in half, right? So he says, we'll cut the baby in half. Now, one of the ladies says, no, please don't do that. The other one says, sure, sounds like a plan. I'll take the head end, right? It's okay, guys. It's all right. King Solomon didn't do that because he knew that the one who said, no, don't do that, that was a real mum. And so he gave the baby to the real mum. Now, do you have a nice long piece of this? Do not do this to it yet. Don't turn it into your crown yet, because that's a perfectly nice crown, but it's a bit boring. Can we make it more interesting? If you have colored paper, you could cut up some gems to put on, or you could draw gems on with different textures. I have a helper next to me. Textures or material, paper?
Textures.
Okay, so we're going to put the textures over here, and I'm going to cut up some gems. So that's one of my King Solomon stories. I really like that one. But a very good friend of mine reminded me of one that I had forgotten all about, that I read when I was little, around about your age probably. So, King Solomon knew another monarch, which is a word for a ruler, whose name was the Queen of Sheba. And she thought, she came over to meet with King Solomon. She said, I've heard about you. I've heard that you're really, really clever. You're really, really smart. I want to test you on this. Is it true that you're really that clever, really that smart? I'm going to test you. And so while she was thinking of a test, a bee flew in and stung poor King Solomon. And King Solomon was upset. He said, I'm going to kill this bee. I'm going to squish this bee. And the bee says, no, please don't squish me. Please don't. Why shouldn't I squish you? If you are a wise and just ruler and you don't squish me, you know what? I'm going to help you. Now, pause. I've cut out a few different pieces of paper. I just piled them together, cut a strip, and I've cut out diamond shapes and round shapes. You might want to cut out one other shape. What shall I cut out? Maybe a heart shape. Shall I do that? Yes? Okay. So I'm going to cut out a heart shape. So King Solomon decided he would spare the life. And so I'm going to do this, the heart shape. I'm going to take those pages, I'm going to fold it over, and then I'm going to cut my heart shape out of all of them, but just half of it. Have a look. So he saves the bee's life. He says, okay, fine, I won't kill you. And off the bee flies back into the garden. And he goes, thanks for that. Now, you cut this shape, teardrop shape. Look at this. Ta-da! Oh, wow. Okay, so we're going to start gluing those down. So, the bee flies off to the garden. And the Queen of Sheba comes up and she goes, all right, I've got my test for you. I know what I'm going to do. I know what I'm going to test you on. She brought out all these beautiful looking flowers. And she said, some of these flowers are real and some of them are fake. And these were beautiful flowers. You would have a hard time working them out. They were made of silk and they were stunning and they were beautiful and they were extravagant. And some of them were real and some were fake. And she said, I want you to tell me, if you're so wise, if you're so clever, you're going to be able to tell me which ones are real and which ones are fake. Well, King Solomon walked up them and had a good look around. And he even sniffed them to see, do they smell? But Queen of Sheba was very clever. She had put perfume on, so you couldn't tell which ones were real and which ones were fake just by sniffing them. And he was starting to worry. And she thought, aha, I've got you. I've proved that you aren't as clever as you say you are. I'm going to close that. And so then there was a moment where there was a little come in from the garden. Who do you think it was? Obviously, it was the bee. And the bee flew up, didn't say anything, just flew up and started going up to the flowers with nectar, which were real, and drinking some of the nectar, collecting some of the pollen, drinking some of the nectar. And King Solomon, who was wise, said, aha, to himself, I know which ones are real. It's the ones that the bee is flying up to. And so he followed the bee and he said, oh, this one's a real flower. This one's a real flower. This one's a real flower. This one's not. And he worked it out because the bee was, as he had promised, helping him. So, because King Solomon was so wise, he was able to prove to the Queen of Sheba that he knew what he was talking about. So, I'm not suggesting that by having fancy crowns, we're going to be as wise as King Solomon. It'd be cool, wouldn't it? But yeah. I don't think I can make that promise come true. But I wonder if once we have our fancy crowns, if you guys want to think about if you were a king or a queen, or if you want to not be a king or a queen, just a monarch, which means the ruler of a country, what would you decide? What would the rules be that you would make? Because remember, just before this whole COVID thing started, we were starting to look at our rules for Zehoo, where we have rules for how to behave, how to treat each other, how to speak to each other, what we can and can't do, all of that stuff. So we were going to have some rules. And we don't have our rules because we don't have Zehoo to go to right now. But maybe if you can put on your crowns, if you can make a beautiful crown or a plain crown, whatever you feel like, and if you want to, you could perhaps decide on some rules. If you were king or if you were queen, what would you choose? Now, I'm almost done decorating this. Once you have your crown as decorated as you would like, and here's mine. Mani, do you want to show yours? No? Not right now. Can I take it and show? Yeah. So Mani's done a fantastic one where she's glued on. Mani's glued some things on, and Mani's also drawn some beautiful stars. Now you take that. What we're going to do next is, I want you to take your beautiful crown and carefully put it upside down on the table. Hopefully you don't have too much glue. Let the glue dry if this is going to be an issue. And you're going to take your sticky tape, piece of sticky tape, or your glue, and you're going to roll gently the two edges together. You're going to put some sticky tape. You might need a grown-up to help you with the sizing. And look at that. Voila. You've got a crown. So now, I've got a crown. I hope you have a crown. I wonder if mine is as fancy as King Solomon's. I wonder if yours is as fancy as King Solomon's. Or maybe you've done one to be a bit more like the Queen of Sheba. And I wonder what rules you might make. And how wise you would be. Would you let a bee live? Would you let a mosquito live? Would you let them negotiate with you like that? Don't know. All right, guys. Until next time. Bye.